Jai Swaminarayan. Dear devotees, just imagine for a moment, if God appears in front of you in a divine form and God says to you that, my dear, I am so pleased with your devotion. I am so pleased on you. You ask for anything, you ask for any boon. Whatever you will ask, you will get it. At that moment, what will you ask to God? What will you pray to God? What do you want in return of your devotion? What do you want as a fruit of your devotion? What will you pray to God? Will you pray for evergreen success in your life, in your field? Or will you pray for money? Like my income should multiply 10 times, 100 times within a month? Or will you pray for some kind of power, position, name, fame? Or will you pray for wealth, prosperity, luxurious car, magnificent bungalow? Or will you pray for the happiness of your family? Or will you pray for having your dream job in a great company like Google, Microsoft, Apple? Or will you pray for your dream life partner? Or will you pray for having good kids in your life? What will you pray for in return of your devotion, as a fruit of your devotion from God? My dear devotees, our prayers define what level of devotee we are, what kind of devotee we are. Basically, there are two kinds of devotees, Sakam devotee and Nishkama devotee. Sakam devotee is one who performs devotion with some kind of desires, demands and expectation from the God, while Nishkama devotee is one who performs devotion with no desire, no demands, no expectation from the God. He just performs devotion to please God. And that is why this Nishkama devotee himself is known as Ekantik Devotee. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, God has described four kinds of devotee. Artho Jignasur Artharthi Gnani Cha Bharatavshava. Out of these four, first three devotees falls in the category of Sakam devotees. They have some desires, expectation from the God. While Gnani devotee falls in the category of Nishkama devotee. He has no expectation, no desire, demands from the God. Actually, there is no much difference in Sakam devotee and Nishkama devotee. Both are performing devotion, that is why they are devotees. But there is a difference in their intention, their attitude, their thought process and mentality, which makes the difference in Sakam devotee and Nishkama devotee. So what is the difference? The difference is Sakam devotee is self-centric devotee. Nishkama devotee is God-centric devotee. Sakam devotee's thought process is self-centric. He always thinks about me. While Nishkama devotee is God-centric. His thought process is God-centric. He always thinks about God. Sakam devotee performs devotion for his pleasure, for his benefits, while Nishkama devotee performs devotion for God's pleasure and for God's benefits. Sakam devotee always thinks about what God can do for me, while Nishkama devotee always thinks about what I can do for God, what I can live and die for God. Sakam devotee always thinks about to get. Nishkama devotee always thinks about to give. Sakam devotee is one who loves God, who needs God. But Nishkama devotee is one whom God loves, whom God needs. That is when Srimad Bhagavad Gita, God is saying that Priyo hi gnani notyartham aham sacha mama priya. I love so much Gnani devotee, Ekantik devotee. And there is no scarcity of such Sakam devotees in this world. Whole world is filled with Sakam devotees. But there will be rare such Nishkam devotees like Prahladji, Hanumanji, Gopis. They never ever asked anything for their pleasures, for their benefits. They are such Nishkam devotees. My dear devotees, today we have to check ourselves that what kind of devotee we are, and we also have to decide that what level of devotee we want to be, what kind of devotee we want to be. Well, we understood that Nishkama devotee, Ekantik devotee never asks anything from the God. Then question arises that doesn't he ever pray to God? Doesn't he have any desires? Doesn't he have any emotion? Is he emotionless? But my dear devotees, it's not like that. He also has desires and emotion, but not for himself, not for his pleasures. He has desires and emotion for the pleasure of God. Then how does he pray to God? What does he ask to God? Dear devotees, now let me introduce the powerful prayer which Ekantik devotees pray to God, which Ekantik devotee asks to God. This prayer is composed by Sri Premananda Swami, one of the great saints of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Premananda Swami was the idol of love. He was having extreme devotion and love for Bhagwan Swaminarayan. So Bhagwan Swaminarayan has given him a name, Premananda Swami. And the contents of this prayer is such amazing and inspiring, especially for the devotees of God. But before we understand the contents of this prayer, we must understand the history of this prayer, how this prayer was composed by Premananda Swami. And it's really a thought-provoking charitra. And great prayers arise from the great incidents. So listen this charitra very carefully. Once Bhagwan Swaminarayan arrived at Surat by the loving insistence of the devotees of Surat, especially the Ardesharji Kotwal. For 9 days, Bhagwan Swaminarayan stayed in the Surat along with saints and devotees. One day Bhagwan Swaminarayan was returning from the visit of Ardesharji's house, and Bhagwan Swaminarayan was moving in the procession. Saints and devotees all were moving in the procession. They were passing through the street of Surat. Thousands of people were gathered. They were standing both the sides in the street to have divine darshan of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Premananda Swami and other saints were singing devotional kirtans. Suddenly, Premananda Swami noted the melodious sound of music around him. Because Premananda Swami was a great poet, he was a great musician. He noted this melodious sound of music. There were so many musicians who were playing the heart-catching music with various musical instruments. As Premananda Swami heard this melodious music, his mind sticked to that music for a while. And due to that, Premananda Swami was left behind the group of saints. Procession was continuously moving forward. But Bhagwan Swaminarayan is knowing everything. He is the omniscient. Bhagwan Swaminarayan noted that Premananda Swami is left behind. Bhagwan Swaminarayan turned back his mare, Manki, and rode up to Premananda Swami and said, "Swami, why have you left behind? Come together with the saints." As Premananda Swami just came out from that music, he saw that Maharaj is right in front of me. Premananda Swami apologized for this mistake. And then Premananda Swami met to the group of saints and the procession reached to the residential place. But later, Premananda Swami felt a great regret for this small mistake, for this lapse, for this distraction. Premananda Swami thought that how could I get distracted by this worldly music? How could I get distracted from the murti of my beloved God? And how Maharaj is so merciful, so loving and caring that he made me realize my mistake on the spot. He reminded me on the spot. But now onwards, I don't want any lapse in my Ekantik devotion. Next day, Premananda Swami went to the Muktanand Swami. He performed Dandavat Pranam to Muktanand Swami and he prayed. He requested that, "Swami, kindly tell me the principles and characteristics of Ekantik devotion so that next time, never ever, I fall from the path of Ekantik devotion." See, dear devotees, here Premananda Swami took the refuge of Muktanand Swami. Our faults, our mistakes, our weaknesses can be solved only in the satsang of the real saints. For 2 days, Muktanand Swami talked to the Premanand Swami, and Premanand Swami understood the principles and characteristics of Ekantik devotion. And on the 3rd day, Premanand Swami composed a prayer in the Hindi containing these main characteristics of Ekantik devotion. And on the 4th day, Premanand Swami sang this prayer in front of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Which is that prayer? Nirvikalpa uttam ati nischay tava ghanshyam Mahatma Jnanayuta Bhakti Tava Ekantik Sukhadham. Premanand Swami sang this prayer in front of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. For each couplet, he is performing one Dandavat Pranam to Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Maharaj is listening this prayer very carefully. Anyways, Maharaj knows the story and emotion behind this prayer, that how and why Premanand Swami composed this prayer. Bhagwan Swaminarayan heard this full prayer. As prayer completed, Bhagwan Swaminarayan said, Swami, sing it once again. I want to listen it once again. Premanand Swami sang the same prayer once again. The moment Premanand Swami completed this prayer, Bhagwan Swaminarayan stood up from his throne and embraced Premanand Swami and showered his love and blessings on Premanand Swami. On that day, at the evening, Bhagwan Swaminarayan instructed to all the saints and devotees that today onwards, we should sing this prayer every day in the evening after the Aarti. And since then, in Swaminarayan Sampradaya, this prayer is being sung every day in evening prayer after the Aarti. This is how Premanand Swami has composed this prayer. In this prayer, Premanand Swami asked 7 boons from Bhagwan Swaminarayan. But these 7 boons are not self-centric. These 7 boons are the God-centric. These are the boons which Ekantik devotees asked God. And Premanand Swami also mentioned the 11 commands of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. One who follows these 11 commands and becomes Ekantik devotee, for sure he will reach to the divine abode of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, which is Akshardham. There is no doubt in it, Premanand Swami says in this prayer. And dear devotees, herewith we also announce the new video series, Be Ekantik, based on this prayer. We will understand the contents of this prayer in the different parts of videos. So let's all of us learn, understand and apply the contents of this prayer in our life, and let's all of us become Ekantik devotee of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. Thank you. Jai Swaminarayan.
प्रेमानंद कहे धाम में जाओ निशंक जग जी।